So welcome everyone to the episode 1 of NAO Expert Talks. We have with us Captain Aman Johri, CEO of Jatayu Unmanned Technologies, one of our expert committee members and an aviator himself. So welcome Aman, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Obviously we start on with the most basic and the usual question. Why are you here? How are you here?
Right. And thank you for doing this. I'm really glad that I can be part of NAO. It all started very early on actually. In fact, I was born right outside an airport.
Oh, wonderful.
Outside the Juhu airport,
Wonderful.
Nanavati Hospital.
Great.
And the reason for that is both my grandfather and my father were working in the helicopter industry for a long time.
So you're a third generation?
Third generation in aviation, that's correct.
Wonderful.
Yeah, my grandfather himself was an arts graduate actually, neither a pilot nor an engineer. But back then ONGC was just inducting helicopters. So they wanted anybody who is interested in doing this. And my grandfather kind of found fancy to something that spins.
Yeah.
And he said, let's be a part of this. And my father got into it as well. And my father's been one of the most hallmark engineers of this country. And so I had a legacy set and I had to live up to that legacy. So I hope I still am. I'm continuing to. But it's in my blood. It's quite literally in my blood. Yeah. Helicopters play a very major important role in my development as an engineer and my development as not just somebody who's interested in science, but also in development. And of course, helicopters is one rotary type of aircraft. About 10 years back, I built drones for the Indian Army then. The Indian Army recognized me for the effort that I was doing. I was just out of college. And it was actually the then Army Chief in 2016 who kind of pushed me and motivated me to start my own company around drones, counter drones and everything that we do today. The drone that was built in 2016, that the purpose of the drone was that it would take the first fire from the enemy. That if the enemy was to fire on the Indian Armed Forces, the drone was the first one to take fire and go down and act as a shield between the Indian Armed Forces and the adversary. I called the drone Jatayu.
Okay.
And that's
where the name comes
name
from.
of the company.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So the name comes from Ram Puran, and in Ram Puran the bird sacrificed itself for protecting Ma Sita, and so it's got a very Indian connotation to it, and it actually stands for the ethos of the company. We've been doing this for 11 years. I really believe in the concept of Make in India and Made in India. In my eyes, those are two separate things. Yeah. The industry alone is about 600-700 odd companies. But being an OEM, an original equipment manufacturer in itself, for me it holds a great pride. It's a matter of great pride, which is why we have taken a long time in development of technology. I feel today building a drone or making a drone is as easy as watching a YouTube video. You can find everything, you can find the parts on Amazon, they get delivered within 24 hours. You can anybody with a basic engineering skill can spend 2 days, build a drone together. It's not about building a drone, it's about what you do with it that has the value and adds value along the chain of the industry. And Jatayu stands for that hallmark, that when the Indian Armed Forces find themselves in the middle of conflict, Jatayu is always there. We're there to protect our soldiers, we're there to protect innocent lives, innocent Indian lives, and protect the Indian airspace, the Indian borders. So across these 11 years, we've had key milestones, key successes. For example, we had the Meher Baba Prize, which was a very prestigious competition by the Indian Air Force to see if the industry can build swarm drones. And we were one of the top 3 finalists who built 10 drones that could fly without any human control, that could enter a potential disaster zone, can drop supplies and can come back out. So you can use that for humanitarian assistance, disaster relief. You can use that in active conflict also. Then we had deployment during the Galwan Valley conflict in 2019-2020, widely successful. And the most recent, just about 8 months back, we had Operation Sindoor. When I myself was personally there, our drones, counter drones, everything was there to protect the critical lives on the border and protect our Indian soldiers. This ethos is carried forward. We're one of the first few companies to raise funds and investment via private equity route, thereby instilling confidence with investors that the drone industry is not just a bubble. It's not just fancy words, fancy terminologies, and you invest your money and hope for a massive return. That it's continuous sustainable growth, but at a pace that is acceptable both to us and to the industry as well.
Wonderful.
So
there's a couple of words that you use. Since we're shooting for school children, I would like you to define them in a very simple, subtle manner. You used a terminology called OEM.
Yes.
So could you tell the children What is an OEM? What
Yes.
exactly does an OEM do?
Absolutely. OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer. Now, across the supply chain of a product, let's say the product is a drone, right? The product can be broken down into 4 or 5 tiers.
Yeah.
Number one starts with raw material, the basics. People who make aluminum, people who make carbon fiber, people who make just the basic raw materials. Tier 2 starts with basic level system integration, where you take a carbon fiber rod, which is part of a drone frame, and you attach it to the electronics hub and the assembly. So the electronics hub assembly comes from a different tier, this comes from a different tier. Now this has become a tier 2 product, which is basics of what a drone may look like in the future. Tier 3 is adding sensors onto it. What the drone is going to do, it's going to drop payloads, it's going to do research, it's going to take videos, photos of your wedding, of everything else. Is it going to carry fertilizers for agriculture? That's tier 3. So somebody makes specific payloads and sensors for this drone that I'm trying to build. Tier 4 is the certification and testing phase. The agencies that will sign off and say, okay, now this drone is certified legal to fly. And tier 5 is companies like us who build the product from where it is today. So an OEM can be from any of these tiers. An OEM can be a company that's only building aluminum frames. An OEM can be somebody who's just building sensors. And an OEM can be somebody who's building a drone. Now, this is the difference in the industry. If you see 600-700 companies in the drone space, there are maybe less than 20 who are with us, who are just building a whole drone, a whole product. There are about 100 odd who are only building sensors and payloads in the tier 3. And more than 5,000-6,000 who are just making raw materials for the entire aerospace industry. So it's across the supply chain that it's divided in these sectors.
Okay, so my next question, I'll circle back to the ops center probably at the end of the video when we do the facility tour. Let me start with a slightly controversial question to begin with, if you're okay with that.
Of course.
So I've met quite a few policymakers. There's one statement that keeps coming again and again. They say that drone industry is sort of a bubble. That probably people are encashing while they can. And it may burst in the future and the market ceases to exist. What's your take on that? Since you have invested financially, you have invested work-wise, you have put your life years into this. What's your take on this?
Thank you for that question. I feel not many people are addressing the core of this problem. And a bubble. Now, when people say it's a bubble, they largely talk only in investment terms. But we need to look at it not just in a micro focused on investments, but also in technology. Is it a bubble in technology? In the sense that there's a hot controversy that a lot of these drone companies in India, especially the ones into agriculture and large spaces, they just outright buy foreign drones from China, Taiwan, right?
When I see, again, not to name anybody, but by default, what I see that you just buy from XYZ country, China in most of the cases. You white label. So where is the innovation? Where is originality? Where is Make in India? That's the case.
And you're absolutely right. It's a prevailing trend in the industry because at the end of the day, India is a price-sensitive market.
Of course.
If I start, I'll give you hard figures right now, right? If I start manufacturing a drone in India with Indian components, it's going to cost me anywhere between 6 and 7 lakhs to build a small drone.
That's equal to a cost of a car at
Exactly.
times.
You can buy a nice Alto or a Celerio on that budget, right?
So then the fundamental question is, why should I choose a drone compared to a car? Which
Absolutely, exactly. And this question not only goes to the end users, which are at the end of the day very poor farmers. And farmers are not at an elevated status in this country. They form a bunch of them below the poverty line. And not just that, even for people who are in this industry and people who are funding this industry, the investors who back it, all three are very critically important. The benefit that India gets in this value chain is that we have a very large customer base. We have
the largest in the world.
Largest in the world, yes. Other than the big players like China and Russia, we are actually at a population scale and size where this can be scalable. But in terms of tech, I find a fault, or I would not say a fault, but a misinterpretation of this industry in young entrepreneurs. People in just out of their college, people just getting their first experiences who want to jump into this industry. At the base of it, I am more than happy that more entrepreneurs join this industry, yes. But you need to set your mission and vision very clearly from day one. Are you only trying to build surveillance drones? Are you only trying to build agriculture drones? The problem starts happening when one company starts to do 10 different things at once. One, they lose focus. And what happens when you lose focus? You lose money. That's what happens. If as a company, as an entrepreneur, you can focus on the problem that you're trying to solve, focus on that problem for minimum 5 years. That's my threshold for this industry. IT industry, solar industry, maybe a year and a half incubation. Drone industry, 5 years at this point. It may get better in the future, but if you can focus on a single problem statement for 5 years, build a product that is scalable, valuable, and it has hit at least TRL 9, technology readiness level 9, which is a very, very humongous task. It takes years to get to that stage. If an entrepreneur checks these boxes, then they are what we call prime for funding. Then they're attractive to investors. The only reason you can be attractive to a seasoned investor is not if you can give 100x valuation in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
It's if you can give sustained 3x, 4x returns for the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So that there is a sustainable exit at the, let's say, 3 year or 5 year mark for an investor, but also you're primed for IPO in your 10th or 11th year.
Okay.
That's what the trend of this industry is, especially in India.
Okay, fair enough. So, coming down to tad bit basics, I would like to again ask you, since you mentioned different kinds of drones,
Right.
just from a beginner's perspective, as a student, somebody who wants to study aviation, wants to get into that.
Right.
What are the broad classification of types of drones?
Right.
Just for me to get into. So
Yeah.
you mentioned a lot about defense drones.
Yes.
I'll again come back to it. What are the challenges?
Right.
Broadly speaking,
Yeah.
what are the kind of drones that exist in the market?
Right.
And where do we use them?
Absolutely. And that's also a very relevant question in modern India today, because modern India is developing very fast. We're going towards indigenization. We're also going towards modernization of our armed forces, right? Traditionally, I'll take you to the most mature drone market in the world, that is the United States. The United States Air Force, the US Marines, the US Navy, the US Army, right? They have deployments across 135 bases in the world today.
Wow.
So you can imagine the size and scale of their drone industry, right? Traditionally, the drone supply chain and the types of drones, like you say, has been broken into 3 very critical segments. Segment 1 is ISR, HADR, and surveillance, which is information gathering. And that ambit itself is broken down anywhere between a small mosquito-sized drone that does anywhere between 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers of mapping built by Israel, to the Reapers and the Raptors of the world, which are the sizes of proper fighter jets that fly 36, 48 hours.
I'm sure we'll find some images to put on the
Absolutely,
video here,
yeah.
but the audience gets a grasp of the
Exactly.
size range that
Yes,
we have.
from a 50-gram mosquito to a 3-ton aircraft, anywhere in that scale and size. Its job is only surveillance. You're trying to find a specific target or a specific information, and you're tracking it for many, many years. That's the idea. The second, I think a more growing concept is combat drones. So these are more defensive or information gathering. Now you have offensive drones. Drones whose job is to find a target, either a moving target or a steady target or stationary, whatever it is, dynamic or static, and then attack it. So it crosses the border, it crosses many, many countries, and then it falls right down. And the biggest example use cases has been Azerbaijan and has been Ukraine and Russia, where combat drones are the next thing. And what happens also with the forces is you need to combat both of these kind of drones. If I am being in a defensive position, I need to kind of handle both. And the third one, which is, I would say it's still not very developed in the world, but it's coming on, and this is going to be the next boom, is what we call cargo drones, logistics drones. I'll give you a small example. If I am based out of Amritsar or Ambala, which is one of my main headquarters of my army presence, I need to send fuel, I need to send water, I need to send food, I need to send critical supplies like ammunition, I need to send documents to, let's say, Ladakh, Dubruk, or Daulat Beg Oldi, which is one of the highest elevated airfields in the world, where our military presence is today present, right? I send it in a helicopter. Today, the real hard scenario is of a Chetak, a Cheetah, typical helicopter of the Indian Air Force or the Army, is that it carries 100%. That is, if it has a payload of, let's say, 2.5 tons, 2.5 tons of only return fuel. So its usable payload is less than 1 or 2% at this point. It only carries fuel for one way. It drops the payload, it has to be refueled there and bought back. So the cost to the exchequer, cost to me, because it's actually all through my money, right? It's through the taxes that people like you and me pay. The cost is 2x of what it is for the rest of the world. How you can bring it down, and what is the next generation that is coming, is drones that are able to carry anywhere between 100 and maybe 50 kilos of payload, that can operate at 18,000 feet, 20,000 feet, that can carry. So cargo drones is the next big boom that is due to arrive. And its exact cousin, the closest cousin of a cargo drone in the civil world, is an air taxi. It's a fancy word that many people have heard over the years.
We see a lot of media reports of air taxis starting in India soon. We'll be able to carry passengers from point A to point
Absolutely,
B.
right.
how close we are to that?
Oh, that's
experiment?
okay. It's a
separate topic.
very big ambit, but I'm
Yeah.
really happy to address it because I feel one, it's not about the tech that is developed. Now, I've traveled across the world and seen some of the biggest companies that are in this space. I'm happy to name them because I love their work.
Yeah.
Joby Aviation, one of the frontiers of air taxis in the world, the first one to get an FAA certified air taxi. You have Archer Aviation, first one to sign a contract with an Indian airline, Indigo, to start bases out of Ahmedabad to start drone taxis as early as 2027. Then there are eHang, which is a company based out of China, and have already run successful passenger trials in Abu Dhabi and Dubai as of 2 years back. So there are big, massive companies, billion-dollar valuations who are in this space. It's not about the tech. Cargo drones and air taxis is more about acceptance of that tech in the country that you're trying to fly. Dubai and Abu Dhabi is a more acceptable market because not only the regulator, but the industry is prone to adopting technology first. I think this is a core of the problem in India today. We are early developers, but very late adopters.
Yeah.
We are very quick to get the first technology
Indian market,
out.
I think it's the most trickiest market of all.
Absolutely,
Even
right.
as a consumer market,
Yeah.
it's so price sensitive. In
Absolutely.
fact, since I was asking you the broad classification of drones, one that immediately comes to my head is the agriculture drones.
Right, exactly.
And the immediate problem that it's not, part of it is my view,
Right.
part of it is what I've heard from the farmers themselves.
Right.
They sort of fail to see the economic sensibility in that.
Yes, yes.
Because as you mentioned,
Yeah,
Make in India drone would cost 5 to 6 lakhs.
yeah.
Not only it's the price of an Alto, but it's also a second-hand tractor, if I'm not wrong.
Absolutely.
So
that's
for
correct.
a farmer,
Yeah.
I think he would rather go with a second-hand tractor
Yes,
than a drone.
right,
What is that cooling period, relaxation time, as I
Right.
would call it,
right.
that India would take to reach to a point
Yeah.
where you have agriculture drones available like Wi-Fi and broadband in
Right.
each villages,
Right.
and there is an ample amount of supply chain system available.
Yes.
What's your
yes.
take on that?
Right. And yes, I'm really happy to answer that because with any kind of new technology that comes into, especially the grassroots level India today, the biggest question that not only the government, right to the parliament that has to answer, but even the people who develop the tech has to answer is what value is it adding to the life of an average citizen? Is it doing anything? I'd like to give you a beautiful example because we run one of India's biggest drone training institutes. Large portion of what we train for our agriculture end users. And a beautiful story that I have, and it's a repeated story, it's not a one-off case, it's becoming a trend now. A kid right out of school, I think just turned 18 maybe, who's done his plus 2, is getting into a BCom program or whatever, whatever his socioeconomic condition can afford, comes to us and says, I want to train how to fly a drone because I think it's fancy. I don't know what my life will be after this, but I know it will make me enter the world of aviation, at least put a foot into the, a drop in a otherwise big pond of aviation, which makes sense. This person has the right motivation. What can we do for this person, right? So we have a loan program, for example. He takes a loan of, let's say, 70, 80 grand to cover his logistics, his training cost, everything that he has to, whatever. And you would ideally assume that a loan period is 3 or 5 years for him to pay back. And 80K is a significant amount for a person coming from this background, right?
Yeah.
So he comes on a loan. He trains with us for 5 days. We train him how to fly a basic drone, give him the skills that he needs. But then this is where the beauty is. This person then takes a part of that loan, buys a drone on an EMI, an agriculture drone.
Wow.
So he has added on to his loan, but he goes back to his village. So he comes from a place called Satara. It's a very tiny place in otherwise large Maharashtra. It's developing fast, but he goes back to his own farmland and nearby farms around it and says, at a minimum service fee of let's say 600, 700 rupees a day, I will fly a drone for you and I will cover your farm
Entire
with,
farmland,
let's say with insecticides, pesticides, fertilizers, whatever it is that he's trying to do. And he's got a tiny camera, so he does a daily surveillance of what the farm is. And it's a big farm. A farmer, to him, he thinks, okay, I'm paying 600 to a child I've known all my life because he's from my village. That is not that big of a cost for him to pay.
True.
Now what happens you would assume 2-3 years of a loan repayment cycle, he's able to repay his loan in 3 months.
Wonderful.
Because he is able to cover his entire village. So one, he's getting livelihood for his family, for his village. He's developing tech that is right, the village is expanding in terms of his technology capacity of absorption. And more importantly, we are able to hit grassroots at the right point. This is becoming a nationwide trend. Now, of course, you have to cover 140 crore people.
Yeah,
it takes
that's
a
a big
while.
challenge, yeah.
Takes a while to do it.
Yeah.
And 60% of India is rural and agriculture in that sense. So it's going to be at least a decade before we are able to come at a point where drones are a common day affair in agriculture land. But I'm telling you, a decade is at least 3x the speed of the rest of the world. So India is definitely developing fast in that sense.
So on that note, let me ask you, since you mentioned that you run one of the largest drone training school academies,
Right.
what is the qualification? How does one get into it?
Right. So I'd like to take you back to 2019 August when the Honorable Prime Minister launched the drone policy, where he said, not just the drone policy, the drone regulation actually, when he signed off and said, this is going to be the future of drones, right? It could have been like the solar industry or the IT industry when it started in India, where regulation was heavy from day one.
True.
And that was to create protectionism, that was to help Indian tech development grow very rapidly. But the Honorable Prime Minister was of the opinion that the drone sector in India has to be a sunshine sector, in the sense that it can truly add to the revolutionizing of the country as it stands today. So the rules were very simple from the get-go.
Okay. So how does can 12th pass enter into it?
Yeah, so you need,
what's the qualification?
You need a basic 10th pass certificate,
okay, 10th
at
pass.
10th standard, and you need to be 18 years of age.
Okay, 18.
It's as simple as that. To get a license, to get a certificate,
perfect.
to train in a ground class or to know about drones, it can be any age. You can start as early as
there are a lot
you
of workshops at the school level as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So typically if you're 18 and you're 10th pass.
10th pass certificate is the basic.
12th pass is not important.
Yeah, it's not important. It's not relevant.
Perfect. And any other qualification, like do I need to be of physics background or?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing like that.
That's
so
the beauty of the syllabus that we
normal
create.
10th passed.
Absolutely.
And I can just come to a drone training school like you, for example.
Yes.
Just give my paper. What are the basic documents that I need?
You need a medical certificate.
Okay.
So you need a doctor to certify that yes, you're sane of mind and then you're willing to do this. And we need your basic Aadhaar details or whatever government documents that you have. That's as simple as that.
And what's the duration?
5 days.
That's it.
That's the beauty, that in 5 days, 2 days theory, 1 day is on a simulator, so you know what you're doing. 2 days on a live flying exercise, including night flying. So we teach you how to fly in dark environments and night environments. We teach you all kinds of troubleshooting. If a problem happens in the air, how do you deal with it? If a problem happens on the ground, how do you deal with it? If a problem happens in the workshop, how do you deal with that? We train an individual to be a responsible aviator. That's more important. The reason, when I say the biggest, not only in terms of the volumes that we handle, but also in terms of quality, because we are sending these people to fly real birds. And these birds will,
have
for a
real
large,
implications.
they will be flying over people's heads, right? If it crashes, there are real problems. So we train them to be responsible people on field. That's what the 5 days are about.
See, if it is something that can be, done in 5 days, I personally have seen a lot of these cameramen and drone enthusiasts who fly in the wedding without a license. So I think 5 days is not too much of a sacrifice. They can come down somewhere, they can get a license, a proper license, and you need to fly in a green zone if I'm not wrong.
Yes, that's correct.
So could you also tell us about the kind of zones that exist where one should fly and not fly?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of modern India. I love talking about it on international forums because I have seen zone policy in the US for drones. I've seen zone policy in Europe for drones. India is the best in the world, and enough people are not talking about it because when the policy was made, we decided that 99.99% of India will be a green zone.
Green zone.
That means up until 400 feet, which is ideally 40 floors, you're permissible to fly without any restriction. As long as you have, of course.
I think it's quite liberating. Like
exactly.
In terms of pushing the people to fly, to get a license, or just to explore drone flying.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And as you told, I've had the opportunity to look at the zones of different countries. I found that we as a country are quite liberal with that. We have got very few red zones. I mean, of course, barring the airports and the sensitive areas, I understand that we should not be flying over there. But there's something called as yellow zone also. Could you shed some light?
So yellow zone is right in the middle of a red zone and a green zone. Red zone just basically means can't fly.
Don't fly.
No, not at all. Unless you have very express permissions from the central government, you cannot fly. Yellow zone is between 3 kilometers to 14 kilometers of an airport boundary. So the nearest airport, let's say, is Mumbai. 14 kilometers ends in Kandivali. So from there till Kandivali, in a radius of 14, it becomes a yellow zone where you can fly only up till 400 feet, but you need permission from the air traffic controller to fly. So you need permission, you need to call them up, get a license, file your flight plan on EGCA, get the approval done, and only then can you fly, but only till 400 feet. Green zone, no limits. You don't need to call the ATC. You don't need to inform the police of what you're doing because it's well within your rights to fly. As long as you have valid RPC, a remote pilot certificate, you can fly. But that is also only for 150 grams and above.
Okay.
If you're flying a drone that is 149 grams, you don't even need a license. You can just go airborne without
you just need license for any drone that's above
150 grams.
150 grams.
149 grams and above.
Okay, 149 and above.
Yes.
Anything below that, you can just do whatever.
Yeah,
so typically those FPV drones and the high speed, the small ones that you see, I don't think they cross 150, do they?
No, some high speed drones are 170 grams.
Okay.
So you still need a small small RPC to fly. But anything below that, you're doing a fun race with your friends, you don't actually need it.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So my next question, since we've spoken a lot about drones and your journey, how you came here. As you know, NAO, the major idea was to take aviation to the grassroots, right?
Yes.
Because people have this impression that aviation is just pilot and AMEs, right? I think a fair part of my audience does not know what AME also is, so we'll just keep it restricted to pilot, which is of course a expensive business to get into.
Yes.
Just to give a general idea to the audience, what's your picture about aviation? How big is it? I mean, I understand we cannot cover it in 10 minutes.
Of course,
But just a quick overview of what aviation industry is, what it entails, where do we stand as compared to the world, and what's the way forward?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When people think about aviation, largely they think it's just moving from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that. So much more goes behind every takeoff, every landing, every refueling, every taxiing back. There is a team of anywhere between 7,000 to 8,000 people ensuring that is happening.
Yep.
So you kind of have to, there's no one way of breaking down the aviation industry, but like you said, piloting, flying an aircraft is one. Engineering and working on the aircraft, making sure it's ready for the next flight is something else. But then there's also all the antecedents around it. For example, there's an entire world of building airports, operating airports, running airports.
Yep.
Infrastructure management in aviation is a very, very large scope. It's coming up in a big way in India because a lot of airports are getting privatized in India. So you need experts, you need next generation people who know how to not just make an airport and run an airport, but also how to make it profitable so that it's ensuring the best value for its citizens. I'll give you a very, very small example. If you have an airport as big as a Mumbai or a Bangalore airport, and you have a passenger who's coming in, right? One of the infrastructure guys, some graduate of marketing or somebody who thinks about how to run this airport, his job is to think, what is the experience of this passenger from getting off the taxi outside the airport to checking in, to getting onto his flight, clearing security, etc., then flying back to the next airport and then getting out of there. This entire experience management is an industry in itself, from where you place your turnstiles, where you put boarding gates, how automated it is, right? So that's one. Next, you have a big dearth of in India of air traffic controllers. It's actually a global problem.
But I think the stats will take it out from the internet and put it on the show.
Absolutely.
But I've been told again and again that ATC has got a, that particular sector has got a big
It's a
shortage.
big problem. So if you're interested in aviation and you want to earn damn good money and a good life, ATC is the way to go.
I think also a stressful work.
Yeah, it is.
Just to add to the reality check.
Yes.
I think something like Delhi airport, my estimates might be wrong.
Right.
How many takeoffs and landings are there per minute?
Yeah, we do almost 4 a minute, I think, in Delhi.
4 a minute, right? So think about an hour and think about an 8-hour shift.
Yes.
When you think of it as just an aircraft, it's easy, it's objective.
Right.
When you think of 200 people inside of it,
yes.
And there have been accidents in the past where due to ATC error, there were collision of 2 planes. Charkhi Dadri was there,
That's
one
correct.
of them. And that led to a loss of close to 500 people. So you realize that it's a very, very immensely stressful job.
Absolutely.
And also something that holds a lot of responsibility. So ATC and then?
And then you have something called hangar infrastructure.
Yep.
Now, people don't know this. People look at a hangar and think, wow, it's just a concrete structure.
Just tin and concrete. That's
but it's not really that. Because hangars differentiate in terms of its application, use sizes, where it is, how long it's going to be there. We have a very blooming industry, sub-industry in aviation called portable hangars. Where you have a piece of land, you want to operate for 3 months, have a portable hangar in, collapse it, take it out and have it somewhere else. So these are all avenues where somebody can involve themselves in aviation. My honest advice to students and people of our audience and the age bracket that we're talking to, you need to be very serious when you're entering aviation. No matter what you do in aviation, even if you're as simple as somebody who unscrews the fuel cap of an aircraft before you turn the fuel pump in. Even if it's as small a job as that, it is still as relevant as the job of a pilot.
Yep.
We in aviation we call the Swiss cheese modeling, where if something goes wrong, there are 10,000 things that have gone wrong before that.
Yeah.
And because this thing has gone wrong, 10,000 more other things will go wrong after that. It's a very beautiful, it's a little, I would say a little daunting saying, but it's beautiful, scary in its sense that every rule that you read about aviation, every law, every piece of regulation is because of an accident or a crash.
Yep.
Somebody has given their life, somebody has either died or been seriously injured for that rule to be in place.
True.
So when you read a rule that says you need to take out your laptop out of your laptop bag and put it in a separate security tray, it's not because we don't know how to manage the crisis, it's because of a very serious aviation incident that rule is in place. So we need to appreciate it for what it is. And that comes to my other point, that it's not just about the airport and working in the airport. What about aviation law?
Yep.
That is a very big domain in itself. You need next generation
yes.
lawyers who know how to cover the technology that is coming in the next decade, 2 decades.
I mean, it's a beautiful amalgamation of the science and humanities streams put together.
Absolutely.
So lawyers are typically seen as people who have taken humanities, they have not gone to the science side, and they have probably no technical knowledge.
Yeah.
But when you look at aviation lawyers or aviation law per se, I think it requires a fair amount of how airport operations work.
Absolutely.
CAR for that matter, civil aviation requirements. That's again a term that the young guys need to know about. So we run on cars. That's typically how it is. And then I look at their work. It's tremendously technical.
Absolutely.
And added to it is the legal knowledge that they carry. So aviation law, and then
Then what about airline management?
Yep.
So running an airline is separate, but
yes.
to manage the operations of an airline by itself, I'll tell you one of the most understaffed jobs in India today is route management in an airline. How do you decide that an Indigo aircraft takes off from Mumbai at 6 a.m., arrives in Delhi at 8 a.m., goes to Kolkata, reaches at 10:30, then has to take off and go back to Delhi, go to Bombay? How do you decide that route basis on your load factor? How many passengers do you have available? How much you can carry? More importantly, still able to make profits out of that. It's a very tough game. It's one of the most highly paid jobs in Indian aviation today. So if I talk just about stats and figures, we are about 350, 380, just short of 400 odd aircrafts in civil aviation in India today. We are looking at anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200 aircrafts in the next 5 years. That 5-year jump is going to be tremendous. Indigo alone will go to maybe 600-700 odd aircraft. Air India will be at 500 aircraft. SpiceJet will be close to 85-90 odd aircraft. Akasa will be at about 50 odd aircrafts. This, the scale at which this industry is expanding, you need those many people in.
When you picturize it, when I picturize it in my head, it's sort of like store management, but it's dynamic.
Absolutely, right.
And you can imagine that there's hundreds of planes flying at the same time. Hundreds of people flying those planes, and then thousands of people in those planes. So you need to somehow keep track of who's flying what plane.
Exactly.
Which plane is landing where. When it's going to go next. And then we have to take it off again. And all while this, the maintenance has to be taken care of.
Absolutely.
That brings us to MRO, the big word. So for the audience, if you don't know, MRO stands for maintenance, repair and overhaul. I think you'll tell more about it.
So we run Aman Aviation for the last 21 years. It's the industry leader in maintenance, repair, overhauling of aircrafts. Aircrafts can be broken down into 3 main components. One, you have the airframe, which is the hull of the aircraft. Now, when I say aircraft, I don't necessarily mean an Airbus, Boeing, a plane.
It could be any aircraft.
Defense, civil, could be helicopter, whatever.
Agreed.
The hull, the outside structure of an aircraft is an airframe. Then you have all the components inside the aircraft, which is component MRO. It stands for, it can be a water heater, a boiler.
If we were to break down, roughly how many components?
Oh, okay. So a typical Airbus A320 has about 2,500 odd components. Right from the wire that goes from the nose to the tail of an engine, of an aircraft, to whatever's inside an engine, inside an APU, inside all the fancy components that come outside the hull forms component MRO. And then you have engines, which are specific, which are different. 30, 40 years ago, engines and aircrafts came in pairs. An aircraft came with 2 engines and you had to fly them and you could swap out the engines or whatever. Today, the left engine, right engine and aircraft are 3 different assets. They're sold differently, they're bought differently, they're traded differently. A big reason why some of the airlines in India have shut down is because they didn't have the engine contracts in place while they had the aircraft contracts.
The classic Jet Airways case.
Jet Airways case, Go Air case, right? SpiceJet 1.2.
Yep.
These airlines were made 20, 30 years back when they had those contracts in place. The industry has changed so dynamically that the modern airlines that are coming in India and the rest of the world have to deal with them separately.
Yep.
So when it comes to maintenance and engineering, you need to do how to do engineering of an airframe. You need to know how to do engineering of an engine, how to do engineering of components. So you can imagine the diverse sector this is. Electronics, electrical, hydraulic, pneumatic, mechanical, biotech actually.
Yep.
An important part of biotechnology is also in aviation.
Yeah.
When you go into these individual disciplines and streams, you realize the scope for engineering in aviation is massive.
Yeah, it's massive. Perfect. So I think we have covered, of course we cannot cover all of aviation, but we have touched some bits and surfaces.
Right.
I would like to focus on the next section that we have, that is specifically what Jatayu Unmanned Technologies is doing in the sector of defense drones, if I were to call it specifically that way.
Yes.
So we'll walk over to your, what is the area that you call it? Equipment area?
Workshop? Oh, it's a workshop.
It's a workshop. So now we are sitting in your workshop, and I want to come to the interesting part. I think it will be equally interesting for the children as well as the general audience. So I think by and large you are in defense drones, right?
Yes.
Tell me, how is it? Because I think लोगों को ऐसा लगता है कि as a civilian you cannot contribute much to the defense. That's the general perception. That's what we have heard around. Right. So how open is the defense force, and what are you doing exactly? How do you contribute to the defense forces?
Yes, and in the world of defense in India, everybody knows it's a very big market. It's very established. The Indian spending in defense has grown up inorganically, like tremendously in the last decade alone. In the last 8 to 9 years, where we were spending maybe 1 or 2% of our GDP, now it's become a significant 3-4%, 5% of our GDP. It's doubling every year. But not just that. India is also indigenizing as fast as it is developing. 30 years back, about 70 to 75% of our defense imports were, of course, from our friendly neighbors like Israel, like France, partners, Russia, one of the most historically strongest partners of India today. But just in the next 10 years, we decided as a country, it was actually under the guidance of, I feel, the greatest Indian defense minister that is ever is Mr. Manoj Parrikar, the late Mr. Manoj Parrikar, who said we have to be self-reliant in the way we do things. So India started developing, for example, the Sukhoi 34 MKI. It's an aircraft that is built in India, under license from Sukhoi in Russia, but HAL builds it in India, right? You have the Tejas Mark 1, Mark 2, which is also wonderful in its class of performance. Similarly, many parts of Rafale, many parts of helicopters, many parts of transport jets that are all manufactured in India, built in India. Fun little fact for you. You've seen the titanium blade of an engine? Yep. Right? There are about 128
expensive one, the most expensive parts.
The most expensive part of the engine, right? Yes. There are 3 companies in the world that can turn titanium from a single crystal and build that blade.
Oh, really?
One is in Germany, one is in France. Both are subsidiaries of Airbus or connected to Airbus in some way. And third one is in Pune.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just 3 companies that are able to do
Wonderful.
this. So, what I'm trying to say is that the defense industry in India is responsible for hand-holding Indian MSMEs, Indian startups, Indian entrepreneurs. In the sense that I can build the best technology in the world, but if the armed force is not going to accept it, it's not going to happen. I've been in this business for 11 odd years, and my products, what we build in-house in India, they're able to beat all technologies coming out of Israel, all out of Germany, all out of Italy, Spain, Netherlands, you name it. Neck to neck, we fight against our international competitors on a daily basis, and the tech is able to change the game. And I'll tell you why. It's simply because the trials and testing standards of the Indian Army, the Indian Air Force, and the Indian Navy are the toughest in the world. Are absolutely the toughest. I'll give you an example. If I'm trying to build a tech in the US, if it does not work on a coastal area like California or Florida, but it works in a desert area, they will still buy it because that tech is still applicable in Kuwait, foreign bases in Iraq and elsewhere. But in India, the same tech that I give them to an officer in the Southern Command for it, which is in Pune. Pune is sea level, it's still much lower altitudes compared to the rest of India. This officer and this tech and this battalion might tomorrow move to Ladakh, which is minus 41 degrees Celsius at 14,000 feet.
So it has to work in that spectrum.
It has to work everywhere. It has to work in the middle of a jungle, in the middle of an ocean, on a naval ship. It has to work on a desert. It has the wide terrain that India offers, the geography that it offers, which basically goes to say that if I go to the world today, I go to NATO, and I say I have built a weapon system that is acceptable by the Indian Army, that is in service by the Indian Army, I get a clean pass. I get a single tick. The downside to this is it takes anywhere between 10 and 15 years to build tech that is as good as this. What we do as part of Jatayu is over the last 7 or 8 years, we are industry leaders in counter drones. Our idea, our whole purpose is to protect the Indian airspace, the Indian borders.
So let me just ask you there. What's a counter drone?
Yes, absolutely.
For the children who are watching,
absolutely.
How do you define a counter drone?
Right.
Yeah.
So how you can use a gun, or a missile or a rocket to fire on your enemy. You can also use a drone to fire on an enemy. When drones are used for offensive measures by the enemy, you need equipment that can counter this threat also.
Perfect.
So why can you not use traditional stuff like missiles? If today Indian Army and Indian Air Force uses drones, which are worth, let's say, a few lakhs, maybe just a quarter of a few crores, versus an enemy that is using missiles to shoot it down, and a missile costs anywhere between 20 and 30 crores. You use 10 missiles to bring down 10,000 drones, even then your cost of warfare reduces significantly.
True.
So we need systems that are able to track these drones, identify them, and bring them down. Now, bringing down a drone is one aspect, but the core of the problem, you're only curing a symptom. The root cause of the problem is when you have to attack the pilot. You have to find where the drone is being launched from, attack that guy so he's not able to launch any more drones. That's where counter drones come in. Counter drones are a set of sensors, are a set of interdiction equipment that is set on an airfield or on a base or a forward location that detects, identifies drone, spots where it is coming from. Then you can either jam the drone, what we call a soft kill, where drone is coming from this side, you jam the drone, it freezes in the air and drops down. That's one thing. And now, to a scale of 100 drones, 200 drones, 300 drones across a spectrum of frequencies, across a different. So at the end of the day, counter drone is a cat and mouse game. On day 1 of the war, if they launch 300 drones, I'm able to bring all 300 down. On day 2 of the war, the enemy will be smart enough to change the frequency at which it's communicating, change the bandwidth, change the amplitude. It's a little technical, but they get to the idea where my counter drone is ineffective. Me as an Indian company, as an OEM, as whatever, as somebody who's making counter drone should have the flexibility that I can anticipate that change, detect that change, and change my system to counter that drone also. So I need to have that flexibility, that range. The sad part about using drones is, if they launch 100 drones, they need to get only one right. They don't need 99. In Op Sindoor, the hottest targets that were targeted in India were the Golden Temple in Amritsar. There were schools in Ambala. There were villages in northern Punjab. That was the heavily targeted area, civilian zones where you don't have active military
where
presence.
You can have maximum damage.
Absolutely. You need one to fall and you created an international scene. But for us, we have to bring down all 100. Even one is not acceptable.
So there's no scope for error.
No scope for error. So you can imagine, or you can appreciate the level of accuracy, the precision, the kind of systems we build. That's the value chain that we have to offer. So soft kill is one, and then you have hard kill, where you find a drone coming in and you launch small rockets, small missiles, you fire guns, basically you shoot the drone in its path. Both are important, both are necessary. And the third part of counter drone, which is the offensive drone warfare, is when you find where the pilot is, find where the drones are being launched from, then launch attack drones from our own base to attack them so that drone attacks stop going forward. And that's the hard reality of drone warfare today.
Okay, so let me come down to one, again, a basic question. You mentioned quite a lot about what counter drones do and how you were working in the Op Sindoor and all that. As an entrepreneur, if I were to look at this whole scenario, how does one, say after doing school or doing college, thinks about not just setting up a company, but designing something in defense? What is the, I would not say bureaucracy, but what is the kind of framework and regulations one must be careful about? That's one part of it. Second, what is the acceptability? So how am I sure that whatever I'm designing, like you said that Indian Armed Forces have some of the toughest standards in the world. What exactly are those standards?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be a very relevant question for people looking at this industry in the next 10, 15 odd years. The good thing about this industry is it's opened up quite a bit.
Okay.
If I look at 30, 40 years from now, only the top big DPSUs, the large companies in India, like the Bharat Electronics and HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics, only those could build defense tech.
Yes.
And everybody else around those MSME and startups and smaller companies were only supplying to them.
True.
But in the last 30, 40 years, the major change that has happened is that I can now compete with the BLs and HLs of the world. I can supply as good equipment, in fact even better to them, provided when an entrepreneurial journey begins with the idea that what problem am I trying to solve. You can only assure acceptability in the Indian Armed Forces across any military in the world if it is solving a very specific set of problems. If I say I have built the best missile in the world, and if that does not address that I'm trying to attack a neighboring enemy, if I'm trying to attack an enemy that is continents away, or I'm trying to make it go to space, if I don't address the problem and its root cause, and it's the best missile in the world, that will not sell. That will not have a surety. The right way to doing this is that the modern threat of India is going to be the Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean is going to be our most protectable asset in the coming 3 decades. It's going to be the center of all warfare in India. I am building a missile that detects threats in the Indian Ocean and exactly fires at something in the Indian Ocean. That will sell. Because you come down to the problem that the Indian Armed Forces are facing and you attack the problem at its base. So tech development in its true sense, in the idea where you say, I will be able to build an entire missile, that will not fly. That does not work. No single company ever builds a missile. To build a missile, you need somebody who makes the guiding computer, who makes the sensors, who makes the GPS system, who makes the solid rocket motors, who makes the liquid boosters, who makes the detailed steps and system integration. So there are more than 500-600 companies involved in building a missile. So as an entrepreneur, you have to take an early decision that do I become one of those 500-600, and if yes, which one of those 500-600? What problem am I trying to solve?
Or just become an aggregator.
Or a system integrator, where
Yeah.
you need more money, you need more space.
Yeah.
You need licenses. In India, you can't do defense work without defense industrial license.
Exactly. Yeah.
Licensing is anywhere between a 3 to 5 year long process, and there's a reason for that. It's the government's way of controlling that this tech is not going in the hands of our enemies.
True.
As an entrepreneur, somebody who's at the end of the day looking to make money, you have to understand money only comes when there is excellence in the tech that you build. If you're able to hit the nail on the head and say, this is what I'm building. So that understanding is very critical in the Indian Army.
So one of the last questions that I have for this session is, I've seen typically, as you know, aviation is a very small market. Like we don't come from a big industry. I mean, of course, I'm not talking about the financial size of it. I'm talking about the number of people involved. And I think all of us have met each other in some forum or some conference, and it's the same faces that we keep seeing again. One of the complaints that we have as industry members, and this is sort of like a warning signal for the children coming to aviation as well. We don't take competition very nicely. That this being a small industry. But I have an alternate view on this. I think that the Indian market is so big. It's 1.4 billion people as users. Of course, all of them are not aviation users. I get it. But no one company can cater to the needs and the requirements of all the entire industry. So I think there's a better need for the competitors to come together. In our back-end discussion, we quite discussed a bit on this, that during Ops Sindoor, you have had a lot of these competitors, in fact some of your own competitors, come together and work for the country. So tell us a little bit more about that, about the competition you face, and then in times like these, like one of your most critical projects, how overwhelming it was to have the entire industry stand together.
Absolutely, and that it's truly been one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life, personally as an entrepreneur. Now,
so you were there in the field.
I was deployed for almost 10-15 odd days in Ops Sindoor, and at that point, the whole country was on red alert. You must be aware the flights were stopped, airports were shut. It was a daunting scenario because you could spot a drone coming from anywhere. You would not know whether the drone is carrying a chemical weapon payload, a biological weapon payload, it's carrying a virus, it's carrying an incendiary weapon, it's carrying an explosive. You would have no idea. Or it's simply trying to take photographs of the nearest military base and go back. Each drone had to be brought down, right? And I remember this was right after the Pahalgam attack. The Pahalgam attack happened, and that evening the Honorable Home Minister chaired a meeting and said, the next step, whatever the next step is. Here's the thing, the enemy already anticipated that we would go up in arms. Because, and I know the audience is too young, In fact, well, we are too young to know this.
Yeah.
We were all of, I would say, 6-7 years old when Op Parakram happened. So Op Parakram was immediately after the Parliament attack of 2000-2001.
Yep.
Op Parakram was just about a week and a half after that, and we didn't know this, but even then, the idea is that India, as a country, does not bow down to bullies, does not bow down to international terrorism, right? And this was an act of clear-cut state-sponsored terrorism that we had to counter.
Yeah.
So right after the Pahalgam attack, the Indian Army called a high-level meeting and they said, what can the industry offer? What can we do? Because we did anticipate that the enemy will look to exhaust our supplies as soon as possible. We will be engaged in armed conflict. So you would have to anticipate the enemy's capabilities and strengths. And thanks to the intelligence core of India and all the intel that we've been gathering for many, many years, we already knew to a very good extent, what their capabilities are. So we needed to be prepared for that. The most exhilarating experience was, if I had to produce 30-40 jammers in a month, that's my typical production cycle.
Yeah.
I had to make 300 on those 5 days or 6 days. So my production had to be ramped up. Now you'd expect this out of a company, out of young people who would stay up all night because they're patriotic.
Yes.
But the good experience was that all my raw material suppliers, people who were making aluminum sheets, people who were filling gola barud ammunition in a shell, ammunition shell, people who were making antennas, RF signal, whatever, anybody who's doing anything in India, if it was a one phone call away, I said, I need this to make this, which will go with the Indian Army. They were ready to work 24/7 without sleep, and these was not false promises.
They could deliver it.
They actually delivered. I'll give you an example. Somebody who's making carbon fiber for me. They would take a month to build 20-30 odd systems. They produced 300 in 4 days.
Wow.
The entire workforce stayed back because it was a patriotic effort. And I think this is where India as a country has a value over everybody else.
True.
So this is my signal to any new entrepreneur who's joining the defense, aviation, aerospace scene in India or plans to do it in the near future. Look at it from the sense of patriotism. If I was doing the same thing in the US, I would have made a lot of money very fast.
Yeah.
But I would not have the same patriotic fervor that I have today. The value of defending your motherland. When people say motherland, they focus on land. You have to focus on the word mother. That's important. Where you're born, you're due to protect that.
True.
So if you're trying to build a life out of aerospace, defense and aviation, do it in India.
Wonderful.
Agreed, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a slow process. It takes time. But if you clear the basics, if you have your foundation right, and if you're able to deliver the good things, you're here for the long run.
So I think we have circled back to where we started. I asked you in the start of this episode, why are you here? And the last 5-10 minutes, I think that pretty much explains why you are here. So all the young people in the audience, I think my message would again be quite clear. We have to discover a lot of other things in this section that we have the expert talks.
Right.
We try not to keep it too specific. We try to keep it free flowing. Let the expert talk however they want to talk. The base agenda, drone, is one part of the aviation. I think we spoke about it today. And that's one step of how we as youth can indigenize what we are doing. So we have this firm belief that tech is based on science. The more we do our own R&D and own science, because I have this negative statement that I keep saying that we are not too great in R&D, we need to fix up that. The more we focus on the basics, the more we can focus our engineering and design, and going forward that can contribute actually to the country. But one thing that you rightly mentioned, in any other country, we would have been motivated by the finance and the commerce of it. What is the capital gain? I think probably only in India, our motivation comes from what we do to the country, what we do to the people.
Absolutely.
And aviation is one way of doing it. So thank you so much, Aman, for joining us. So I would take this opportunity for, for me to have a tour of this facility for the audience as well. So can we just go around and see your facility? I'll ask you to explain what is in store for us.
That'll be amazing.
Perfect.
Hi, I'm Captain Aman Johri. Welcome to Jatayu Unmanned Technologies. Welcome to my facility. This is where we do a bunch of R&D, manufacturing, development, all kinds of stuff in drones, counter drones and aerospace technology. I'm very excited personally to show you what the world of a true Make in India Atmanirbhar Bharat company looks like. How the young India of today is innovating, developing technology very fast for our armed forces, for civil infrastructure and for the benefit of the country as a whole. So I'll take you around. Let's have a look. I'm going to show you what a product development cycle looks like, from its ideation stage to how we develop technology, working with the end user on field, and what its relevance in the world today is. Let me start by showing you one of our hottest selling products, and this is the one here, right here. You see this? This is it's a jammer. Actually, it's not a gun. It's just shaped like a gun. But what it does is it basically is used to bring down enemy drones. One of the biggest problems that modern India faces, the modern armed forces faces, is that we get a lot of drones coming in from other countries, from our border sharing neighbors, and the drones are not always for good purposes. They are usually meant to distract us, cause harm, drop ammunition, drop bombs, drop fake currencies, drop drugs, drop weapons. And a big problem that the Indian Armed Forces faces today is how to counter these modern growing threats. And you need a system that is one which is agile, it is portable, it can be deployed very quickly, and requires less than 2 minutes in interdiction. The idea is, when you face a drone coming in from the other side, from let's say one of our neighbors, drones fly very fast. Modern drones can reach speeds of almost 150, 180 kilometers an hour. In 2 minutes or 3 minutes, the game is over. That's the time you have between a drone coming in and interjecting. To give you a common example, if I had a missile coming in from one of my partner neighboring countries, let's say, whose job was to attack Indian soil, I would have anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes for interdiction, and this is where drones play a critical role. We call it asymmetrical warfare. Asymmetrical warfare means that a target which is just worth maybe 30,000-40,000 rupees can cause damage worth crores. So one method is to launch missiles at it, right? But missiles themselves cost a lot of, let's say 100 crores. We can't use that kind of money to counter asymmetrical warfare. So asymmetrical warfare is psychological. It is also meant to break the confidence of your forces. That's why we developed this beautiful product. It's a jammer. Its job is to send high energy radio frequency towards a threat and bring the threat down. Now, the threat can be a small drone, it can be a large drone, could be a rocket missile, whatever that uses radio frequency. It's very simple in operation. It's shaped like a gun because our armed forces are used to working with a gun. We basically control it using the switches over here. We point it towards the drone and then bring it down. It's really as simple as that. It's one of the most simple, most commonly used products. It's very lightweight, it's economical. More importantly, it's produced in India. And we are proud to say that this is a pure Indian technology that has been very successful, especially during Op Sindhu, to bring down drones that were coming in from the other side. And we aim for it to continue to be one of the hallmarks of true Indian defense technologies that are made in the world. So this is one of our best selling products. Let me show you what we did for the Indian Navy. Now, Indian Navy is slowly becoming a manpower heavy force. We have the Agniveer program, the tour of duty program that was launched 4 years back, and Indian Navy is the first one to adopt it. So Agniveers are make up for a very large workforce of the Indian Navy, which means we have less than 6 months to train these naval Agniveers to handle real-time operations, to handle real missions. They spend 2.5 years with the Indian Navy, and then they retire and then they go on. Training has become an important aspect of the new generation, the new workforce of the Indian Armed Forces. And we wanted a method to train, let's say, the naval Agniveers on small arms and light weapons, SALWs as we call them, which means you have very small weapons like pistols, rifles, assault rifles, things like that are on your person, and you have a threat coming in from the other side. How do you counter that threat effectively, fast, and in a way that is precise? So we developed something called the Jatayu swordfish. It's a tiny little boat. You can see it here. It's like just this size. You can see it's just about 60-70 odd centimeters. This boat is completely unmanned. It's completely autonomous. It's got a computer built in. It's got its own GPS sensor. It's got its own compass. It's got its own rudder system. What we do is we activate this, launch it off the hull of a ship, and this goes very fast. It crosses more than 130, 140 knots in a top speed, and goes almost 4-5 kilometers out. And from that range, we use the naval Agniveers will use their weapons to shoot it down. So the idea is that it's a hot target. It's bright orange in color so that it's easily visible, and we use it to train the naval Agniveers. But that's on the manpower. The Indian Navy is also modernizing very fast. It's one of the most heavily modernized naval force of the world. and we use a lot of autonomous weapons. We use radar to track targets, and we use automatic guns to beat those targets as well. So we wanted something that's a little bigger than this. So let me show you Swordfish V2 version 2. It's something we again developed in-house, 100% indigenous. The design is indigenous, the development is indigenous, and you'll not believe it, it's also manufactured in this facility right here. You can see it's slightly significantly bigger in size, and this is used for naval radars to track as a target and to shoot it down. And you know, the beauty of this entire thing is everything combined costs less than 1 lakh rupees to the Indian Navy, which means if there are 30-40 ships, each ship needs to just spend 1 lakh, and they get an effective target, they expedite their training, and what could take potentially years to train now takes a few weeks. That's the biggest benefit. So you can shoot it down as long as you want. A fun fact, this is 100% 3D printed. So we have not used mechanical manufacturing, we have not used fancy tools, CNC, lathe bed machines, none of that. We've used a 3D printer, we put these parts together, and it's fully autonomous and ready to go. That's the beauty of what we do for the Indian Navy. Let me show you a little more advanced technology in detecting threats. This little birdie we call here is our Jatayu osprey. Now osprey in nature is a small bird that is able to detect the birds around it by just hearing its calls, and are able to detect prey from threat. So that's why we call the system the osprey. It's a radio frequency detector. You can see it's the shape of a smartphone. It's got a map, it's got a live map that it uses to basically track anything within your airspace, a rogue drone, a friendly drone, an enemy drone. If something is flying in your immediate vicinity of 5 to 6 kilometers, it detects it, tracks it, identifies it, tells you what the threat is, where it's coming from, what its top speed, how high it is flying, what direction it's flying in, whether it's coming towards you, away from you. More importantly, it tells you the location of the pilot as well. It tells you where the drone is launched from. So not only as an Indian Armed Forces, it's super lightweight, it's the size and weight of a smartphone, so you can carry it in your hand, you can carry it in your pocket, you can carry it wherever. You find everything that you want on the screen, and then you use one of our jammers to bring it down. That's the beauty of what we do with radio frequency detection. So this is detection anywhere between 3 to 5 kilometers. There's slightly advanced variants of the same device that does anywhere between 7 and 8 kilometers also. So we've built 2 variants of this device, and we're continuously expanding. The next generation, we might be able to put all of this in your smartwatch. So you can carry your watch and you can figure out exactly where the drone is coming in from. That's the beauty of one of these devices. Now, let me show you a little more advanced system. So all of this was analog. It requires person-on-person interaction. It requires you to be on field and then engage an enemy and then shoot it down. What if you are 20 kilometers away from the LOC, from Pakistan, and you knew the drones are coming in from the other side? What do you do then when you're far away from the threat? Now let me show you the larger part of what we try to do. This little baby here, we call them the Rhino. Now you can look at the jammer yourself. It's again a radio frequency jammer. The reason we call it a Rhino because it really has the power of a rhino. Somewhere between 7 and 8 kilometers, 7 and 9 kilometers, this jammer is able to bring drone down from anywhere, from any place. The beauty of this system is that it runs on a battery, it runs independent of power supply, it runs on a generator as well. It can run on anything you give it. It's got almost 9 to 10 frequency bands, which means no matter what new threat terrorists, militants or a rogue nation might like to come up with, this jammer has got what it takes to bring it down. And this was one of the most successful during Ops Sindhu. More than 150 systems currently in operation with the Indian Armed Forces, and another 300 to go in the next couple of months. And this has been one of our most well served products in the Indian Armed Forces. This Rhino has a slightly upgraded variant for a bigger Rhino, Rhino V2. So we are developing anywhere between small jammers to big jammers and fully integrated systems as well. Let me just show you what an integrated system looks like. So when we talk about analog versus digital threat, the world is also modernizing fast. The idea is that it's not necessary the drone only operates on an analog system, right? Drones are highly modifiable. They can use different kind of frequencies. They can hop frequencies. They're not necessarily from the same target, coming from the same enemy or the same threat. So we have right here a fully integrated system. This one we call the Jatayu Prahar. Prahar stands for a sudden attack, right? Where you're able to detect a drone fast and bring it down. The beauty of this is when we are working with the forces, we realize that you can't have a soldier or an Agniveer who's on duty and staring at a laptop screen for many hours together. We develop something called fatigue, and in the event of a conflict, we have less than 15-20 seconds to respond. This beautiful system, what it does is it detects drones coming in from almost 15-20 kilometers away. It's able to find a track, it's able to see what the drone is. It can also detect swarms. So if there are more than 100-200 drones coming your way, it detects the swarms, finds the targets, and it automatically jams using this device, which means there is not a single human in the loop. It automatically detects, automatically jams, brings the drone down. And that's the beauty of what modern India looks like. The Indian Armed Forces are always active 24/7. We are ready to bring down any threat because of what we are able to develop in-house. Fully 100% make in India under Atmanirbhar Bharat. That's one of our beauties of what we work with. Now let me show you a little bit more into drone technology and what we do with drones. We got some R&D units here and there. We got surveillance birds here and there. We use all these drones for supply of medical deliveries, first aid kits in high altitude regions. So bunch of stuff that we continuously develop. Let me show you another one of those beautiful programs that we tried building 3D printed drones that are used as kamikazes. So these are again some prototypes of some kamikaze birds that we've flown in different weather. The reason it's all dusty because just flown in Jaisalmer in the desert condition. Basically the drones have all the electronics inside. It takes less than 12 hours to make a drone, to print it, to get it ready, 3D printed, get it assembled, launch with one hand. It's super lightweight. It's got an explosive on its nose, so it's find its target across 30-40 kilometers across the border, dives down and blows it up. So that's the next generation of what we call kamikaze or suicide attack drones that we also build in-house. So we got a bunch of this tech also. Let me show you a little bit of what we do with space technology. Now space is a new frontier that we are trying to develop. We got here what we call a clinosat. Clinosat is something that is to simulate zero gravity conditions here on Earth. So the way with this equipment moves across its 3 axes, it creates a gyroscopic effect, and because of that, on its continuous motion, it's able to create zero gravity within the satellite. This here is a CubeSat. It's a 1U CubeSat. You can see it stands for 1U, which is basically a 10 cross 10 centimeter. What we're trying to develop in space technology is we're trying to grow plants within this cube satellite, and we're trying to spin it around in zero gravities to see how a plant grows differently in 1 gravity versus 0 gravity. The idea or the working hypothesis is that when we're able to grow plants in 0 gravity conditions, they will be more disease resistant, they will be more pesticide resistant, and their growth rate will be faster. So when we colonize Mars in the next 11 or 12 years, all the food that is going from Earth to Mars for the next colony will be developed by us. That's the large technology that we're trying to emulate. So bunch of the tech that we do here, you've seen it's a manufacturing R&D facility, new development, fast development, and the future is very bright. People say future is unmanned and everything about the future is about drones. I don't believe that. I believe the present is unmanned. Today is drones. Drones are developing faster than you can imagine. Counter drones have to develop twice as fast, and you can bet that India is ahead of that curve.
So friends, that was our episode 1 of Expert Talks for NAO with Captain Aman Johri, and I think I learned a lot. I hope the audience learned something new. They discovered something new about this mysterious and fancy world of defense, drones and defense, and how drones are being used, how Jatayu has used their drones to the service of the nation. And we'll keep on getting you some more interesting content with the following episodes. We'll discover the other parts of aviation, probably in future, how does AME work, how does becoming a pilot work, and so on, close to 150 plus things in aviation. So thank you so much for joining us, and hope to see you next time.